salt shaker. To the way you make it. It's a salt for me. It's a salt for me. Salt shaker. To the way you make it. It's a salt for me. It's a salt for me.
Welcome to episode 2 of It's the Salt for Me, brought to you by The Salty Christian. I'm your host, Marie. I invite you to subscribe, share, and review in the comments below. So if you listen to the first episode on forgiveness, you'll know that my homework from last week was to work on forgiving those who I feel have wronged me. And as you know, or may not know, my list had to begin with God. I needed to forgive God for unanswered prayers, trials, tribulations. I also needed to forgive myself for having beef with God. And lastly, I had to figure out how I was going to forgive other people that I felt wronged me. Spoiler alert, this didn't go the way I planned at all. So I was going to start by giving the outcomes of my questions, but instead I'm going to start with how I forgave God, because this is what ultimately changed the way this whole thing panned out. To start off, I went to my prayer room. I lit some incense. I got on my knees. Okay, back up a second. So I actually listened to some gospel music first, because that always puts me in the mood to worship God. So after I listened to several songs and, I was really feeling his spirit, I got on my knees and I started praying, basically asking for forgiveness for even existing. I mean, I really ugly cried, begged him to forgive me for even having the audacity to be mad at him. Snot running down my nose, tears streaming down my face, a lump in my throat kind of praying. I was all in. When I was done, I just sat there for a while, praising him, thanking God for forgiving me and feeling, quite accomplished. I felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. It was the beginning of a new relationship with God. I was excited. I got up, I started straightening the pillows I was sitting on and making sure those incense were really burned out. And it was in that very moment that I heard a voice in my head. So let me just back up 1 second. You know that little voice in your head that talks to you? Well, I've never really liked hearing my own voice because I have a low pitch and I think I sound funny. It sounds to me like that little voice in my head sounds like a little man. So I've nicknamed that little voice Little Man. Whatever. So anyway, the incense was really burned out. And in that very moment, I heard this voice in my head. The voice said, and I quote, "So you really think that just because you ugly cried out to God for forgiveness, that he really believed you?" I'm like, wait, what? And he kept going. What, you think that he's going to start answering your prayers because you said you're sorry? You really think this is going to change something? Okay, I took a deep breath and I sat back down feeling defeated. I didn't understand why little man was trying to tear me down. I felt like a fraud. I wasn't excited anymore for this new relationship. I knew I had to pull myself together because I really did mean every word that I had cried out to God. So I decided to shut little man down. He was not going to steal my joy. So I started talking back. I'm like, not today, little man. The devil is a liar and you will not steal my joy. The Lord knows my heart. So you just need to sit down and shut up. So I sat there praying silently. I didn't hear anything more from little man. I felt good again. Me and God were solid again. Okay, we were good. So then all of a sudden I hear, you ask God for forgiveness and you're going to forgive others, but aren't there some people you need to apologize to? What about the people you hurt? When are you going to ask them to forgive you? Oh, God, yeah, my stomach started turning. Little man was right. As much as I didn't want to admit it, I have hurt some people. Not really hurt them, but just hurt them. I do owe some people some apologies. I do need to ask some people to forgive me. And I felt what little man said with every fiber of my being. But I'm tired of little man getting all up in my business. So at this point, I'm heated. I took a deep breath. I'm like, you know what, little man? And little man interrupts me and goes, nah, cuh, you know that was God. Wait, what? It was a scene, man. I'll get back to this later. In the meantime, let me move forward with my questions. So my first question was, do I actually have to tell other people that I forgive them or just forgive them in my heart? And how many times am I required to actually forgive the same person? So I remembered reaching out to an old friend years ago. I mean, we were pretty tight at one point. We went to school together and we were friends after we graduated, but then she like really did me dirty. And years later, I ran into her sister and I got her phone number and I decided, to call her. Not to say I forgive you, but to genuinely ask how she was and just let go of whatever happened. When I called, I'm like, hey girl, it's been a long time. I ran into your sister. I've been thinking about you. So, I asked her for your number. We talked for about 5 minutes before something happened. And she said she would have to call me back in a few minutes. But I was excited because the conversation went well. It felt like we were repairing the friendship. I know in a very short amount of time, but it felt like that's where it was going to go. So she was going to call me back like 5 minutes or so. Anyway, I'm still waiting for that phone call. It's been the longest 5 minutes in the world. She never called me back and we never spoke again. And I remember how this one interaction showed me that I had been wasting all this energy feeling some type of way about that friendship, how it ended when it was obvious that she never gave me a second thought. For years, she had been living rent-free in my head, but it was my fault. I thought she was a writer, but she was only a seasonal associate. So in answer to the question, some of you may disagree, but I determined that I could, in fact, forgive someone in my heart. I'm not trying to renew these relationships. I'm trying to heal by letting go. And I did just that. I have forgiven in my heart and I let go. My second question was, will God get justice for me if I forgive? And or should I still want justice if I've forgiven someone in my heart? We've established that I'm petty. So while I have forgiven in my heart, yes, a part of me still wants some justice. Just a little tiny bit though. But I guess this is for God to decide, not me. The more I thought about it, perhaps God ending their relationship with me was the revenge because I'm good people. Next question. Does forgiveness bring peace? Funny enough, it kind of has brought me peace. Not total peace, but peace nonetheless. I feel so much lighter. I wish them well. You never know what someone else is really going through to make them hurt someone else. I do know that hurt people hurt people. During this process, I learned that the people who I feel have wronged me, truly wronged me, are so far removed from my life that I would literally have to find them in order to let them know that I forgive them. And they most likely aren't even thinking about me. To be honest, I realize that I rarely think about the wrong they did to me anymore because honestly, it's been a minute. But when I do, that's when it brings on feelings of anger and sadness that I need to let go of. One person that caused the absolute most pain, I used to let it bother me a lot, so much so that it consumed my life for years. I was a prisoner in my own skin. I was mad all the time, depressed, wanted revenge. So I have finally forgiven that person in my heart and let go. I need to look forward and stop allowing someone to have so much power over my thoughts and emotions. I'm still petty, so honestly, they're just dead to me now. But for real, they're just not worth any more of my time. As far as forgiving someone over and over, I realize that I've been doing this my entire life with the people I really care about, true writers, because there is nothing that they could truly do to where I would cut them off forever. I mean, I may stop talking to you for a minute, but I'm not going to hold a long-term grudge. These are the people who I will always have in my life, no matter what. These are my God-given people. It's called unconditional love, and unconditional love demands forgiveness, how God loves us. I think forgiveness will be a lifelong lesson for me because it isn't something that comes easy, not for me anyway. So this series isn't really going to be a series after all, because it would never, it would be never ending. I will move forward to another topic next week while still practicing the art of forgiveness. I'll let you know from time to time how much progress I've made, though. Now back to God calling me out about apologizing to people. I really didn't have to wrestle with that too much. And even though I wanted it to be, I knew right away that it wasn't little man. I know how I've treated people for a minute now. I haven't hurt people, like really hurt them, but I've withdrawn myself from them because of what I've been going through. With that being said, I think I will take care of this issue right now. So to anyone that I have hurt, I have been in my own world for some time. I feel myself starting to live again. I want you to know that I'm sorry for not calling, keeping in touch, or visiting with you. It's not that I don't want to, and it doesn't mean that you aren't important to me. I just couldn't. I will do my best to do better. There are quite a few of you, and I'm sure I've pointed you in the direction of this podcast. So yes, I'm apologizing to you. I love you unconditionally. I'm trying to teach myself how to love me that way too. So I apologize to me too. I promise to do better. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I don't know if any of you went along on this journey with me, tried to put more forgiveness in your life, asking for forgiveness from other people, yourself, God, or even asking people to forgive you. If you did go on this journey, please drop a comment below and let me know how that worked out for you. I'd love to see, the different takes on that. And thank you for tuning in. But more importantly, I hope that it blessed you like it blessed me. Finally, I'll say this. God has one of the best senses of humor I've ever seen. It didn't really connect with me until I was talking to my sister about some life stuff. And we were laughing about my whole beef and, about the prayers that went unanswered. And I won't tell you the whole conversation, but I realized at the end of that conversation that after 30 years and really working on my relationship with God lately, that I've been witnessing some of those prayers starting to come to fruition and didn't really recognize it until now. His time, not mine. I've run from God for a really long time. I'm assuming it took 34 years of him stripping me down to nothingness in order to bring me to where I've always known I had to go. I get it now, God. Stop running, start trusting. Please remember to subscribe, share, and review in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you next week on the next episode of It's the Salt for Me. Until then, be blessed and be a blessing.
It's the salt for me. It's the salt for me. Salt shaker. To the way maker. It's the salt for me. It's the salt for me. Salt shaker.